Good evening. I'm Erica Sargent. We've been following breaking news at the fashion outlets of Chicago and Rosemont. We have an update now from officials with the village of Rosemont. We want to bring that to you live as they talk about the two people shot inside the fashion outlets. Let's listen in.
Multiple calls for gunshot victims inside the mall here in Rosemont. Our department responded. Numerous vehicles, police response, fire response were dispatched to the scene. The scene, we have two confirmed victims. Both were initially critical and were transported to local area hospitals. One victim in the mid-20s, male, was pronounced at the hospital and is deceased. The other victim is a 15-year-old female who had a gunshot wound to her right wrist and is in stable condition. A possible third victim might have left the area. It's not confirmed at this time, but witnesses say there might be a third victim who has left. What we are looking for is possible two offenders, males in their mid-20s. They have left the area in a red vehicle. Our officers are currently interviewing witnesses and reviewing surveillance for this vehicle, license plates, and identification of where that vehicle traveled. Currently, we know that the victim or the offender is not on site. The offender has left the area. This area is still an active crime scene. We have multiple areas within the mall that are being taped off and will be closed off for the immediate future. We have a number of search teams inside the area that are clearing the mall. The mall has been initially cleared and is being back cleared for multiple reasons. We are searching for additional witnesses. We are searching for other civilians who might be in the area. We have numerous locations that have been identified that victims are, or excuse me, not victims, but civilians are within the mall area and are staged inside stores. So we're getting to all those individuals. If they are reaching out to family, we do have reunification sites at Caddy Shack across the street. So if families are coming to the area, please head to that area, Caddy Shack in Rosemont. Anyone who leaves the mall will be directed to that location to unify with family members. At this time, we have no further information. We will be on site. The mall will be closed for the immediate future tonight. Unknown how long we will be on scene here, but a number of officers will have a high presence here at the mall. Obviously, you guys have probably seen a number of officers on the exterior. We have just as many, if not more, searching the area inside the mall. So at this time, we are not taking any questions, but anything further, we will update you guys as soon as possible. So we appreciate it. We want to urge the public and let them know that this area is safe. This was an isolated incident. There was not an active shooter here at the mall. Again, it was an isolated incident that took place where the offenders have left the area and are no longer on site. So, thank you.
Are you able to say where in the mall this happened?
We have the area of the food court, and we are trying to identify if there are other locations within the mall that were affected by this.
Just to clarify, the 50-year shot in the wrist, are we going to stick with the stable condition? What's her specific condition?
Yes, she was in stable condition. Any further questions, we're going to update the media and the public on our social media, so stay tuned on our Twitter, and we'll have updates as soon as we know them. Thank you.
And that is the latest news from law enforcement officials out there in the village of Rosemont, updating us on the status of what we initially thought were 2 victims. Now they believe there could possibly be a third one, but one man in his mid-20s did die, they said, one of the gunshot victims. A second, a young girl, 15-year-old, was shot in the wrist. She is stable and it sounds like she is expected to survive. They say there was possibly a third victim who fled the scene, and we'll get more information on that. As we do, we'll give it to you. Meantime, they are looking for 2 offenders, is what we're hearing now. 2 offenders, men in their mid-20s, that fled the scene in a red vehicle. They don't yet have a license plate on that, but the official out there mentioning that they are looking at surveillance video, talking to witnesses to try and get more information. It sounds like they have some intel on different areas that they are going to search for this person, these 2 people rather, apart from just the fashion outlets out there. But at this point, offenders not in custody, but they do emphasize that this is not a general threat to the public. There is not an active shooter. They call this an isolated and targeted incident. We don't know the relationships between all of these 4 to 5 people involved, but at this point, those 2 suspected gunmen are not in police custody. Meantime, they said that they did an initial sweep in search of the fashion outlets out there, but it's still an active scene. They have the fashion, or rather the food court, which sounds like that is where the shooting might have happened, but they're also looking at potential other areas where there could have been any sort of argument, conflict, anything that could show them evidence at different points in the fashion outlets. But they were sending a message to the families, the friends of those who may be wondering about people that are still inside the mall there. They are going back through each store, law enforcement is, to try and make sure that everyone gets out safely. And we mentioned before that the reunification spot for this, it's right there on the scene. It's in the 9000 block of Balmoral Avenue, and that one is the Caddy Shack. The Caddy Shack restaurant there is where they're telling friends and family to go so they can be reunified with their loved ones there on site. So at this point, he wasn't really taking any questions, so we weren't able to have our reporter out there ask him. But Charlie DeMar is on the scene, and I know he will be working to get more information. As we get that, we will bring it to you. So at this point, we know 1 person is dead, a man in his mid-20s. A young girl, 15 years old, shot in the wrist, is expected to survive, and we do not know the condition of a third suspect, or rather a third victim that they believe could have been shot and injured in some way out there on the scene, because they say that person did leave. As we get more information on the status of those victims, we'll bring it to you. If the potential for identification happens, of course, they want to notify the families before they release that information to the media and then to the public. And earlier, we saw some video inside from someone who was actually out there shopping at the fashion outlets, and it really gave us some perspective on what it looked like in the minutes after the shooting happened, when officers were searching for any potential victims or any other potential suspects. We could see armed officers walking through that area, and if we have that video, we'll bring that to you if we could pull that up again. And we could see them at different stages. It didn't look like there was running or any sort of panic, so I think by the time that individual was filming, they were in the later stages of understanding that the offender was not still on the scene. But this is what we have it for you here. You can see an officer armed walking through the lower level. The person who shot this, Stringer Harris, we interviewed him earlier. He said that he was standing on the second level near the Prada store, and he was able to shoot over those balconies to see some of what looks like either employees there on the scene or other shoppers, and then law enforcement walking through there, many of them armed, as they were trying to clear out the fashion outlets in the village of Rosemont. So as we get more information, as you heard in that media briefing, they will be updating us on their social media accounts. We've been following those very closely, so we'll bring you those updates. And as we get even more information, should they have another briefing for the media, we will bring that right to you as well.